In the shadow of the Cold War, while all eyes were on America's race to the moon, the Soviets, they were aiming for a completely different world. And they weren't just racing to another planet, they were racing to hell. So get this, back in the 70s, the Soviets actually landed on another planet. Not just once, but multiple times. They sent back pictures, they recorded sounds, they even analyzed the soil. I mean, this was a monumental achievement, one of the greatest in space exploration history. And then they just stopped. So you have to ask, what did they find down there that was so terrifying no one has ever tried to land there again?
You know, we always think of the space race as this one big thing, right? America versus the Soviets, first to the moon. But that's not the whole story. It was really two different races. America, they went for the moon. It was right there, this bright, shining symbol in the sky. It was a PR victory, a race for prestige. But the Soviets, they looked the other way. They set their sights on Venus, a world completely wrapped in these thick, mysterious clouds. Back then, nobody knew what was underneath. Some scientists honestly thought it could be a tropical paradise, maybe even an Earth twin. And for the Soviets, that was the real jackpot, to be the first to pull back the curtain on a secret world.
So how are they going to do it? With a program they called Venera. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a mission or two. This was a full-on campaign, relentless, brutal even. We're talking about an incredible 18 separate attempts, each one designed to claw back one more secret from Venus, no matter what it took.
But Venus. Well, Venus wasn't going to give up its secrets without a fight. The first few years of the Venera program were just a catalog of absolute disaster. It was a brutal lesson in just how unwelcoming our closest planetary neighbor really is. I mean, just look at this early track record. Their very first shot in '61, it failed to even leave Earth's orbit. And of course, they kept that one quiet. Venera 1 lost contact after just a week. Venera 2 died pretty much right after leaving orbit. And here's the kicker. Those are just the failures they told us about. We know there were other so-called ghost missions, attempts that failed so badly they were never even given a name. It was like Venus was swatting their probes out of the sky before they could even get there. And then came a breakthrough, but not the kind you'd hope for. In 1966, Venera 3 arrived at Venus. Its systems fried on entry. It sent back nothing. Zero data. It just became a dead weight, plummeting through the clouds until it slammed into the surface. By all accounts, a complete failure. And yet, it was also history. It was the very first time a man-made object had ever touched the surface of another planet. Their next attempt, Venera 4, actually managed to send something back before it too went silent. Just one critical piece of information. It measured the atmospheric pressure 25 times that of Earth. Now for a second, the Soviet scientists were thrilled. They thought it had landed. But the reality was so much worse. The probe hadn't landed. It had been squeezed, crushed like an empty soda can while it was still miles above the ground. The pressure was beyond anything they had ever imagined.
So, those early attempts taught the Soviets a very hard lesson. Venus wasn't a paradise, it was a pressure cooker. So for the next mission, they stopped building delicate scientific instruments, and they started building tanks.
And Venera 7 was an absolute beast, a sphere of titanium built for one thing and one thing only, to survive. But even this beast almost didn't make it. The parachute ripped on the way down, it slammed into the ground at almost 40 miles an hour and tipped over on its side. But against all odds, it survived. For 23 long, agonizing minutes, it beamed back a tiny, weak signal. And that was it. Humanity's first ever message from the surface of another world.
So what did that first message from hell actually say? Well, first up, the temperature. It was 465 degrees Celsius. That's 869 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that in perspective, your oven at home maxes out at around 500. This was hot enough to melt lead on the spot. So yeah, that whole tropical paradise idea, it was officially dead.
Next came the pressure. Remember how they thought it was 25 times Earth's? Nope, try 90 times. 90. The pressure on the surface of Venus is the same as being a full kilometer, that's over half a mile, deep underwater in our oceans. Any person standing there would be flattened into nothing in less than a second. And there was one more terrifying surprise. As these probes were falling, the scientists back on Earth noticed this weird little shift in the radio signal, something called the Doppler effect. And it told them something incredible. The probes weren't just falling straight down. They were being violently shoved sideways by what? Turns out it was wind.
hurricane-force winds screaming through the upper atmosphere at over 200 miles an hour.
Okay, so at this point, the Soviets knew what they were dealing with. This wasn't a sister planet, it was a hellscape. But, knowing the numbers is one thing. Seeing it, that's something else entirely. So the next missions had one big goal: to open our eyes and show us the face of this nightmare.
October 22nd, 1975, Venera 9 touches down. It lasts for 53 minutes in that insane heat, and it sends back this, the very first photograph ever taken from the surface of another planet. Forget jungles, forget deserts. What they saw was just bleak. A desolate, alien landscape of sharp, broken rocks lying under this heavy, oppressive sky. This wasn't a twin Earth. This was somewhere else entirely.
Then came Venera 13. This probe gave us the first color images, and they showed this world soaked in this strange, eerie orange light. But it did something even more amazing. It carried a microphone. And for the very first time, we heard the sound of another world. A low, rumbling roar, the sound of the wind on Venus.
But even in the middle of all this historic, groundbreaking stuff, space has a very strange sense of humor. The next lander, Venera 14, had this key experiment. It was a spring-loaded arm designed to pop out and test how hard the Venusian ground was. Simple enough, right? Well, the camera took its picture and then ejected its lens cap. And where did that lens cap land? You guessed it, in the exact 1 in a million spot where the testing arm was programmed to hit. So, Venera 14 successfully and very accurately measured the hardness of its own lens cap. A multi-million-dollar facepalm moment.
So the landers had painted this absolutely terrifying picture, piece by piece. The final missions, they were about completing that portrait, revealing the full, horrifying scope of the hell the Soviets had stumbled upon. So, after all that, what's the legacy? What did all that cost and all that sacrifice actually teach us? It taught us that Venus has a surface hot enough to melt lead, that the pressure is 90 times our own, enough to crush a submarine. The air is toxic carbon dioxide, and the clouds, they're made of sulfuric acid. That hurricane-force winds constantly whip around the planet, and that the surface is a dead volcanic wasteland. They went there hoping to find a paradise, and what they found was a pretty good description of hell.
By now, even the Soviets realized that trying to land anything else was basically a suicide mission for very little new information. So, for the final chapter of Venera, the last two probes. They never even tried to land. They just stayed up in orbit, safe from the horrors below. And for 8 months, they used powerful radar to do something no one had ever done, to see through the clouds. They scanned the entire planet, creating the very first complete map of Venus's hidden surface. They finally peeled back its last secret.
Which brings us right back to where we started. The Soviets spent 20 years in an all-out assault on Venus, and they won. They touched it, they heard it, they saw it. They're still the only nation to ever successfully operate a machine on its surface. And after all that, after finally discovering what was really under those clouds, they never went back. And in all the decades since, no one else has tried to land there either. So you have to wonder, what does it mean when the only people who have ever been to hell decided it's not a place you should ever visit twice?
Thank you for watching this incredible story. Please like and share for more amazing videos.